What's a human life worth? The way Julie Riggs sees it, the state of Minnesota decided her husband's life was only worth $1,000. I've been investigating the group home industry in Minnesota for the past 8 months, and when I learned what happened to Julie's husband, I almost couldn't believe it.
And this is one of my favorite ones. This is our wedding photo, and that's our fire truck. That was a good day. A really good day. I miss him.
Julie and Ryan Riggs were both volunteer firefighters. They got married in 2021. And 3 years later, Ryan got in a motorcycle accident and suffered a traumatic brain injury. When he woke up, Julie said he didn't know who she was.
He didn't know what he was doing. It was just weird. It wasn't Ryan. I knew that he had, with the brain injury, that, there's going to be time in that, and hopefully we're going to get his memory back. That was the deal, to get his memory back.
Julie was already battling cancer, and she couldn't take care of Ryan on her own. So the staff at the hospital in St. Cloud recommended he stay at a group home while he healed. That way, he'd be supervised around the clock.
He was going to be well taken care of. They would help him with his memory. They'd get him to all his appointments. There's always somebody there. They'd be taken care of.
The facility is called Fortunate Homes. It's in Brooklyn Center, a suburb of Minneapolis, and from the outside, it looks like a regular house, but it's been a business since 2017.
Anyway, here I am.
The company was founded by Susan O'Boya. She used to work as a nurse in a psychiatric hospital, but now she posts on social media about her busy CEO life. Ryan spent about 6 months at Fortunate Homes. Then, last September, Ryan went missing.
I said, have you called the police? They said, should we? That was Fortunate Homes. Should we call the police? I said, yes, you should call the police.
They figured out where he was, but it wasn't until 29 hours later.
Ryan was found in a back behind the garage, out in the open. He went back there and never came out.
Officer Wagner, record statement. How come the police are here today?
We called the police because we found one of our clients, Ryan, back behind the garage, unconscious.
Is this normal for your client to be laying in the grass outside the backyard?
Not that I know of, but he goes out for walk, so I don't know if he likes to lay down on the grass.
Okay.
That I wouldn't know.
While cops searched the surrounding neighborhood, security camera video from the group home shows that Ryan had been in the backyard nearly the entire time. But the group home staff didn't check the footage until the next day, when family members asked them to. By then, it was too late. Ryan was dead. The autopsy found fentanyl in his system, and the medical examiner determined he likely died of an overdose, but a state investigation said it couldn't rule out hypothermia. The temperature had dropped to 45 degrees that night. Julie was stunned. She'd never known him to use opioids.
My heart broke. My heart broke. Oh, when I heard it, I just broke down. I didn't get the death certificate. It was like, this is it. It's really, he is gone. He was supposed to be here. We were going to build a house together and make it a home. No, it ain't happening.
Deaths like Ryan's happen way more often than you'd think. State records show at least 50 Minnesota group home residents have died in the past 3.5 years. About a third of those were drug-related. And in 19 of those 50 cases, including Ryan's, the state investigation found the group home or its staff neglected the resident. But even more surprising is what happens next. The state can fine the group home if it determines the facility neglected a resident, but those fines are often capped at $5,000 per violation. And in Ryan's case, the initial fine was even smaller, just $1,000.
And to find out he was worth $1,000, that's the worst thing yet. That's the worst thing I've ever heard. How can somebody be worth only $1,000?
The state of Minnesota paid Fortunate Homes more than $20,000 a month to care for Ryan, or $764 a day. The fine amounted to less than 2 days' worth of payments. An attorney for Fortunate Homes said the company would not comment for this story, but the company is appealing the state's maltreatment determination. The group home industry has exploded in the northwestern suburbs of Minneapolis over the past 5 years. Brooklyn Center, where Ryan died, Crystal, New Hope, and especially Brooklyn Park.
There's been days where I probably go to 10 group home calls. There's days where I might go to 3. There's days where I might go to 7. But I definitely would say every shift, I at least go to at least 2 calls at a group home. Do you mind if we step in?
Brooklyn Park Police estimate that group homes are responsible for about 10% of all their 911 calls.
5134 copy. Can you start north of the area? I think I've been here a couple times if I'm remembering the right house. Well, let's see how many priors I have. Somebody in pain, mental problem, a bleed, multiple just like EMS calls, broken bones, assault, mental problem.
APM Reports and NPR News reviewed hundreds of reports from state licensing investigations and the Brooklyn Park Police.
Hi. How are you?
They paint a chaotic picture of what happens inside some of these group homes.
Okay, do you want us to come in and talk to you about what's going on today?
Residents frequently go missing. One later turned up in Arizona. Another resident was missing for a full year. Police have also reported encountering staff who seem to have minimal knowledge of their residents' medical and psychological conditions. In one case, an officer wrote in a report that he was unable to identify the difference between staff and clients.
It's clear that there are some group homes that are great. We don't see a lot of them because we just don't deal with them. We deal with the ones that are a problem. And we don't have a lot of tools to be able to deal with those issues at those group homes. We make reports, we let the state know. I'm not sure what the state is doing. That's kind of like a black hole. You send it in, you don't get a lot out. Something has to change.
There are a few lawmakers at the Capitol pushing for bills that would put stricter regulations on the group home industry. One would increase training requirements. An earlier version of that bill would have increased fines when the state concludes a group home neglected a resident, but the lawmaker sponsoring it said that was politically impossible.
I need 68 votes to pass this bill. I believe I would only have 67 if I left the fines in. There are people who financially benefit by stopping this bill. Is it the right thing to do? I don't think so, right? I think we should always put human life first and foremost. But if I can get training, if I can get procedures, if I can get an emergency medical responder on site, that's a huge win.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members.
Another bill would prevent a new group home from opening within 650 feet of an existing one.
This proposal is about integrating people with disabilities and aging adults in community and being proactive about ensuring that we don't inadvertently create institutionalized cul-de-sacs in neighborhoods.
Some providers are pushing back.
If, to some, the problem is too many people with too high needs, that's not a policy issue. That's prejudice masquerading as planning.
This is our Magnolia home, licensed for up to 4 individuals. We have 4 bedrooms. Hey, Linda, what our job is as a human services system is to lift people up, give them the tools, the opportunities, the access to the supports that they need to live their lives in the best, most appropriate, most cost-efficient way that we can, and do it that minimizes all the other stuff. We'll never be able to zero out fraud, zero out abuse, zero out any of that stuff.
How's a good day?
Julie Riggs knows that none of the bills at the legislature will bring her husband back, but she does want to see more oversight of the group home industry and more protections for residents.
President Trump or even our governor need to step up and do something, because $1,000 for Ryan that the group home had to pay is injustice.
We asked the Minnesota Department of Health for an interview, and they sent us this statement. They said the agency issues fines and other enforcement actions in accordance with state law. The department has only revoked the licenses of 2 group homes where residents have died, and in one of those cases, it eventually backed down after the group home appealed. And after we emailed them about Ryan's case and why the fine was only $1,000, they sent a letter to Fortunate Homes. The Department of Health said the original fine was an error, and they issued a new fine for $5,000, which is the most the law allows. For Julie, that's still not enough.